Hey everybody, it's Jolly and welcome back to my channel. And coming to you today with the first of what will hopefully be a series of videos over the next few months, assuming I stick with it, which I'm really hoping to do. But I did mention in my last video that I am participating for the first time in the 100-day challenge. And for anyone who doesn't know, the 100-day challenge is a basically, or the 100-day project. I keep calling it 100-day challenge, but it is a challenge basically to pick something creative and do that every single day for 100 days in a row. And so I've seen a lot of people do it on social media, and this year I decided was the year I wanted to give it a try. And I, like many other folks, work really long hours during the week, and it's my first time participating, so I wanted to stick with something that sort of small and contained that I knew I could kind of do throughout the week because I usually really only play around with sort of art stuff on the weekends. So this is, again, just trying to pick something relatively simple and contained. And so what I have landed on is the 100 days of, I guess, mixed media twin cheese. Um, and I am someone with a high tolerance for whimsy, but even I think the word twinchy might be potentially too twee even for me. But basically, for those who don't know, a twinchy is essentially a 2x2 square that often you collage on or make some kind of art on. So that is what I'm making. And I found doing the full deck challenge last year that I really like making in response to prompts. So what I've done is over the last month or so, I've just been collecting prompts, just one word, random word prompts in a Google Doc. I think I'm up to like, you know, 300, almost 250, something like that, prompts. And every morning I wake up since starting the challenge and I use a random number generator and I pick a random prompt. And that helps me kind of not anticipate things too much and try not to plan ahead too much. So yeah, so basically that's what I did in terms of prep. I also cut up 100 of these just little squares just from white cardstock. Um, and I decided that, so these are the backs of my first week. And so that's gonna be my plan is I'm sharing daily my make each day on Instagram over on my Instagram account. But then I'm gonna make a video, hopefully each week, at the end of each week with what I made for that preceding week. Um, Not a hard concept. Don't know why I'm having trouble explaining it. But yeah, so this is my first week. And as you can see, I've decided I'm documenting on the back what day, what the prompt was, and then the date. So yeah, so last Sunday, as I'm filming this on Saturday, February 28th. So I started this last Sunday. So it's been just about a full 7 days of making each day, which I've really enjoyed so far. So I just wanted to, again, to share. So day one, the prompt was lighthouse. And so this is what I made. Um, so this is basically the lighthouse I just sort of made. This is just more cardstock that I colored. The red is an acrylic marker, or actually no, the red is, sorry, a paper. At where I work, we get little spot bonuses, and they're given to us in red envelopes. And so they're called like red envelope days usually. So I saved one of those envelopes because it's a great shade of red, and I just cut that up and layered it on. And then um, for the collage in the background, this is just layers of paper. This is handmade Japanese paper that I use in a lot of makes that I get from a monthly subscription from Chanel at Bitter Melon Bindery. And then, so yeah, so I just layered up 3 different pieces of that Japanese paper. I think uh, probably my favorite part of this, weirdly enough, is this green because I think the texture on it looks so much like grass, like I just imagine this lighthouse on a cliffside. And then I haven't made it a mandatory requirement for myself, but I'm trying to use found words in every one of these. So yeah, so this one, um, most, if not all of these have come from, I bought an old Tabernacle hymn book from Kate at Inked Paper Art, and it's been a great source of words and very small words, which has helped obviously in this project. So this is how I started, and again, added the words, "The raging storms may round us beat, sail on." Um, and I had a friend who actually told me that they read this in Moira Rose's voice. So, RIP. But yeah, but this was my first make, and I kind of feel like I started with a bang. I was really happy with this first make. So yeah, that was Lighthouse. Day two, February 23rd, was Holes. So, I got a little cute with the stamping on the back. But what I decided to do is I have a series of heart-shaped punches that obviously go down from really tiny to, I think this is the largest or the second to large. But basically, I have, so another thing I'm trying to do is because I can't guess, it's kind of a surprise each day. And also that I have to do them each day. Uh, I have to use the things I have, which is another goal for me. Obviously, I can't know the prompt and then wait 3 days for something to arrive. So I'm finding ways to meet the prompts with things I already have. So this is some scrapbook paper I've had forever, and I'm trying to use up the last of it. So it's all in black and white. So yeah, so I basically just cut some extra squares of it, cut these hearts in it, and then layered them up with a bit of foam tape to give them some dimension. So almost like like a tunnel book. And then this poor heart of mine I added. And so yes, that was day two, Holes. And these are not going to stay straight. Nothing I do is straight. I'll leave that there. So yeah, so day three was Roses. And again, this is one of those where I had to kind of remind myself to let it be simple. If it's something I'm doing in just a few minutes of my day, it doesn't need to be overly complicated. So, my mind was racing in terms of like, how can I make a rose? How can I, do an abstract rose or whatever? And then I was just like, just let it be simple. And so this basically, I took a scrap of Florentine paper that I got from Kate at Inked Paper Art. And then I have these packages of German scrap from Germany, that I have not used or even taken out of the package. So I had a lot of roses in there. So I just sort of layered that on. And then flowers with deeper beauty shine from the hymnal. And that was my make for roses. So it's actually a good challenge of sort of, because I'm definitely a person who like will not want to start a project until I, have it perfectly planned out in my mind and everything. I definitely have some of those perfectionist tendencies. So this has been a good challenge in terms of kind of letting go and also just letting it be simple. If I have a rose and a cool background, just let it be. So day four is bow tie. So that was February 25th. And this one I think came out really cute. So uh, one other thing I did prep is if you saw my video where I made the little domino accordion book, I reprinted a bunch of the scans of cabinet cards and tintypes that I've done with. So this gentleman is from a real cabinet card that I scanned. And so I scanned them, shrunk them down, and printed them on my printer. So a lot of these guys are going to make a appearance in my makes. So again, the prompt for this was bow tie, and this background is from a Tim Holtz backdrop. I think actually a Christmas one, but it's just kind of a plaid look. And then I cut out my gentleman, and this is also a Tim Holtz Stampers Anonymous stamp for the bow tie that I did on a scrap of paper, um, that I had sprayed for another project in this sort of turquoise color. And then I found the words in my stash, dressed for the occasion. And again, these are all from vintage books, and I've got a lot of them. So yeah, and then I did a turquoise splatter, outlined them in turquoise, And then it felt like this bottom part was empty. So I also cut out a little heart from the uh, scrap, that same scrap, turquoise scrap paper, and added a little heart at the bottom. And so I kind of love how that turned out. I love the little kind of cartoony bright color with the more neutral and obviously the real vintage sort of sepia photo. So that was again day 4, bow tie. Day 5 is tiles, and that was February 26th. And this was a fun one too, and I did this one upside down, but that's okay. But so this background, to get this tile effect, I basically, this is just the inside of a security envelope. And the pattern really reminded me of a lot of the tiles I saw. I took a trip with my siblings a couple years ago to Portugal and Spain, and especially in Portugal, beautiful tile work. And so what I did was I just took this security envelope. I put some packing tape on it, which gives it this kind of glossiness that like a glazed tile would have. And then I used a tiny little square punch that I have, and I punched out a bunch and added them right on the white. And then um, I found these words. He leaned against a wall, and I found this guy who's leaning. And yeah, and so if you saw my week 4, my video for week 4 of Seek Gather Create, this was the same gentleman from that make. Often I won't know exactly what size I need, so I'll just take the scan of the cabinet card or the tintype and put it on a, print it out basically at a bunch of different sizes. So I had a bunch of leftovers of this gentleman, so I used him here. And that was a fun technique. I've been thinking about making tiles out of security envelope inside, so that was neat. And that's what I'm actually really liking. One thing I really like about this challenge so far is, yes, I'm using a lot of techniques that I've used before, but I'm also trying new things in a lot of ways. And it's kind of a low risk, easy way to kind of test out a new technique before I apply it to a larger project and see if I like it or kind of get the kinks out. So moving on, this is day 6. This was yesterday, February 27th, and the prompt was wings. And so, yeah, so I made this one. So this is vintage. If you really, the texture didn't come through well in the Instagram photo, but this is actually vintage wallpaper in the background. So it has a neat texture. And then I stamped over that with a script stamp. And then this is a Dina Wakley stamp of birds. And so I just stamped it on a piece of scrap, cut out the wings, and added them to this gentleman. And then under his wings, which is again from the vintage hymnal, and I use that also in my week 4 Seek, Gather, Create make. So was very into winged gentlemen apparently this week. So, and then finally, just earlier today, today is February 28th, as I said, and the prompt was cloud. And this was another new technique to me, which, I mean, I don't even know if you can call it a technique, but basically, so these clouds are made from, you can see they're dimensional, and they're actually just made from, they're like little cotton pads, the little round ones that I use to remove nail polish, toenail polish in my case, after a pedicure. And so, yeah, so I basically I have a cloud stencil, so I kind of drew on the back of them with using the stencil and then cut them out. Obviously, don't get a perfect cut when you're cutting cotton like that, but which I think actually adds to the charm. And so I layered up some of the clouds, and then again, I looked through my stash of cabinet cards and found this gentleman who was sitting on a chair because I knew I wanted to have someone sitting on the cloud. And so, again, covered him with the packing tape to make him glossy and had him sitting on the clouds. And again, from the hymnal, clouds o'ershade the sky. So I really love how this one turned out as well. So that's my make so these are my makes for the first week of Seek, Gather, Create. No, sorry, no, it's not. My first week of the 100-day project. And yeah, and you can see definitely toward the end of the week, heading into a sort of a theme. Um, I don't know if I'll keep that up for all of them. I don't know that all the prompts will work with that, but again, I'm trying not to impose too many rules or restrictions on myself in an effort, to keep it easy and keep it something that I'm going to do every day for 100 days. So, yeah, thank you so much. If you want to see any of these in more detail or in a still photo, they're all up in my Instagram. And I will be back next week with another walkthrough of what I make in week 2. Thank you so much. Talk to you later. Bye.